Hello, Sagittarius. Welcome back. There's something I've been picking up very strongly around your energy lately. It feels like someone is carrying you around in their mind far more than you realize. Not for a moment, not for a day, but over and over again. Almost like no matter how hard they try to focus on something else, they somehow find their way back to thoughts of you. And honestly, I don't think they were expecting to feel this much. So if you've been sensing that someone is struggling to let go, struggling to move on, or quietly wondering what could have been, you may want to stay with me through this reading. Because what I'm seeing here feels deeply emotional, deeply personal, and surprisingly revealing. Before we begin, I'd love to ask you something. What's one thing your heart truly hopes for this year? If you'd like, leave it in the comments along with the number 7. For me, 7 has always felt like a number of reflection, inner wisdom, and meaningful turning points. And sometimes, simply putting a wish into words can be the first step towards seeing it more clearly. Okay. The moment I started connecting with this energy, the 6 of Cups immediately stepped forward. And what I'm feeling here is somebody who keeps drifting back into memories they thought they had already moved past. It's strange because I don't think they're doing it intentionally. I feel like they're trying to stay busy. They're trying to focus on work, responsibilities, daily life, whatever is right in front of them. But somehow your energy keeps finding its way into their thoughts. A song reminds them of you. A conversation reminds them of you. Even certain places seem to carry your presence. And the more they try to push it away, the more it returns. I'm seeing someone sitting alone for a moment, maybe driving, maybe scrolling through their phone, maybe just staring out a window, and suddenly they're remembering something you said months ago. Something small. Something that probably didn't seem important at the time.
Yet it stayed with them.
There's something about your energy that lingers. Not loudly, not dramatically, but deeply. The Lovers is sitting right beside this. And honestly, this person doesn't fully understand why their feelings have grown this much. Because I don't think this started as some overwhelming emotional experience. It feels like it developed slowly, quietly, almost without permission. One day you were simply someone they enjoyed talking to. Then you became someone they looked forward to hearing from. Then somehow you became the person they compared everyone else to. And that's where things started getting complicated. Because I'm seeing them trying to convince themselves that they should move on. Trying to tell themselves there are other options, other people, other opportunities. Yet every road seems to circle back to you. Every comparison somehow leads back to Sagittarius. And I keep hearing this thought repeating in their mind. Why does nobody make me feel the way they do? The Page of Cups feels incredibly strong here. There's a softness underneath everything this person is experiencing. A vulnerability they usually keep hidden. I don't think they show this side of themselves very often. In fact, some of you may know this person as someone who appears confident, detached, or emotionally controlled. But beneath that surface, oh my God, they're feeling everything. They replay conversations. They wonder what you meant when you said certain things. They remember your laughter, your expressions, the way you looked at them when nobody else was paying attention. And what keeps standing out is that they don't just miss your presence. They miss the way they felt around you. There's a difference. Because around you, something seemed lighter, easier, more honest, more real. And now I'm seeing the moon appearing. This is where things become even more emotional. Because there are feelings here they haven't fully admitted, even to themselves. Feelings that seem to surface when everything gets quiet, when there are no distractions left, when nobody else is around. I keep picking up on someone who thought these emotions would fade with time. Instead, time seems to be doing the opposite. Every week that passes somehow adds another layer, another realization, another reason they can't stop thinking about you. And lately, it feels like they're beginning to understand something that has been sitting in front of them this whole time. The fact that you are not like anyone they've ever met before. There's something heavier sitting underneath all of this than they would ever admit out loud. Because while their feelings keep growing, I don't actually feel like this person believes they're ready for someone like you. The 8 of Swords keeps pulling my attention in that direction. And honestly, it feels exhausting. Not because they don't care. Not because they don't want this. But because they're constantly arguing with themselves. One side of them keeps moving toward you emotionally. The other side keeps questioning whether they have enough to offer. I keep seeing someone who looks at their own life and immediately focuses on everything that isn't perfect, everything they haven't accomplished, everything they haven't fixed, everything they wish was different. And somehow they use all of those things as reasons to stay silent. It's almost as if they've created a prison inside their own mind. Nobody put them there. Nobody told them they weren't enough. Yet they keep repeating it to themselves, over and over. Maybe I should wait. Maybe I need more time. Maybe I need to fix this first. Maybe Sagittarius deserves somebody better. And the strange thing is, the more they care about you, the stronger those thoughts become. Because you matter. Because this connection matters. Because losing you feels important. The hermit appears here, and the energy becomes incredibly quiet. I don't get someone who is openly discussing these feelings with friends. I don't get somebody who is constantly seeking advice. Honestly, I feel the opposite. This feels like somebody retreating into their own world. Spending more time alone. Thinking more than speaking. Watching more than acting. There are moments where they seem completely normal on the outside. People around them may assume everything is fine, but internally, they're carrying conversations with themselves that never seem to end. I keep hearing them asking questions they can't answer. Questions about timing. Questions about worthiness. Questions about whether they can actually build something stable with you. Because there's something about your energy that feels substantial to them. You're not showing up as a temporary distraction. You're not showing up as somebody they can casually forget. You feel important. And that realization scares them more than they would ever admit. The Five of Pentacles feels deeply emotional here. Not in a dramatic way. More in the sense that this person feels disconnected from the version of themselves they wish they could be. I keep picking up on insecurities. Some of them may be financial. Some of them may be emotional. For others, it may simply be the feeling that life hasn't gone according to plan. And whenever they imagine coming toward you, those insecurities immediately rise to the surface. They start comparing themselves, comparing their circumstances, comparing what they have to offer. And honestly, they rarely come out looking good in their own comparisons. There's something about the way they view you that feels almost intimidating. Not because you're trying to intimidate them, not because you've done anything wrong, but because they see strength in you, growth in you, a sense of self-respect that forces them to look at their own life more honestly. And that's uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. The Four of Cups is showing me someone who keeps missing opportunities to say what they really feel. Not because they don't have feelings, because they have too many. Every time they think about reaching out, doubt shows up. Every time they think about opening their heart, fear starts talking. Every time they imagine being vulnerable, pride steps in and tells them to stay where they are. So they sit with it. They sit with the longing. They sit with the questions. They sit with the uncertainty. And the longer they sit there, the heavier it becomes. You know what's interesting? I don't feel anger from this person. I don't feel resentment. I don't even feel confusion about whether they care. What I feel is somebody carrying an enormous amount of pressure while trying to pretend they're okay. Trying to convince themselves that they can manage everything alone. Trying to act as though these emotions aren't affecting them. Yet every quiet moment seems to tell a different story. Every moment when the world slows down. Every moment when there are no distractions left. Every moment when they stop running from their own thoughts. The truth they've been avoiding seems to find its way back to them. And what they're beginning to realize about themselves is making it harder and harder to keep hiding behind silence. A weight has been building inside this person for much longer than they expected, and honestly, I don't think they can ignore it the way they used to. The Five of Cups is sitting here so strongly. Not as punishment, not as self-pity. More like somebody finally allowing themselves to look at what happened without making excuses for it. I keep seeing moments replaying in their mind. Things they said, things they didn't say, opportunities they had but didn't take. It's almost like they're reviewing an old chapter of their life and seeing details they completely missed the first time around. And every time they revisit those memories, the same realization keeps surfacing. You mattered more than they allowed themselves to admit. I don't feel like this person fully appreciated what they had when it was right in front of them. Part of them assumed there would always be more time, more opportunities, another conversation, another chance. But life has a funny way of teaching lessons when people become too comfortable. And I'm seeing somebody who has started recognizing that certain connections don't come around every day. There's something about your energy that feels rare to them. The way you listened, the way you understood things without needing endless explanations, the way you seem to see parts of them that even they struggle to understand. And honestly, they're beginning to realize how much they took that for granted. The Nine of Swords feels incredibly active here. This is the energy that keeps them awake longer than they want to admit. I don't necessarily mean they're lying awake every single night thinking about you, but I do feel there are moments when everything catches up to them. Moments when distractions stop working. Moments when they can't escape their own thoughts. And those thoughts aren't always comfortable, because regret has a way of asking difficult questions. Questions like, what if I had handled things differently? What if I had been more honest? What if I had stopped running? What if I had actually shown them how much I cared? I keep picking up on somebody who thought they were protecting themselves. But looking back, they're starting to wonder if all they really did was push away someone who genuinely cared. And that's a painful realization. Very painful. The Page of Swords appears, and suddenly their attention becomes focused almost entirely on you. There's curiosity here, observation, a constant desire to know what's happening in your world. I feel like they're paying attention to little things. Maybe your social media, maybe mutual friends, maybe old messages, maybe memories. Whatever form it takes, this person seems to be searching for clues, trying to understand where you are emotionally, trying to figure out if your feelings have changed, trying to determine whether they've already waited too long. Because one fear keeps showing up again and again. The fear that you're moving forward without them. The fear that someone else may eventually recognize everything they failed to appreciate. And, honestly, that thought unsettles them more than almost anything else. I keep hearing this energy saying, what if somebody else gets the version of them that I lost? Oh my God, that feels incredibly strong. Because this isn't only about jealousy. It's about realization. It's about finally understanding value after distance has created perspective. The Seven of Swords brings another layer to the story. And what I'm feeling here is somebody becoming increasingly honest with themselves. For a long time, they may have avoided certain truths, avoided certain emotions, avoided accountability, not because they were intentionally trying to hurt anyone, but because facing those truths required them to confront parts of themselves they weren't ready to see. Yet those walls seem weaker than they once were. The narratives they've been telling themselves don't feel as convincing anymore. The excuses don't carry the same weight. The avoidance doesn't feel as comfortable. And I keep seeing them reaching a point where they're no longer questioning whether this connection was important. That question seems answered. What they're struggling with is something entirely different. They're trying to figure out how much damage was created while they were pretending everything was fine. Because there's something about distance that changes perspective. And there's something about loss that reveals value. The more clearly they see what this connection truly meant, the harder it becomes to ignore the choices that brought them here. What keeps standing out is that they're not only grieving what happened, they're grieving what could have been. And the deeper they go into those reflections, the more they're forced to confront a truth they've spent a very long time avoiding. A shift is happening inside them that feels impossible to ignore. Not because somebody forced it, not because circumstances demanded it. It feels more like they've reached a point where continuing to avoid their own heart requires more energy than actually listening to it. The Judgment card arrives here with such a powerful presence. And honestly, what I'm seeing is somebody waking up to themselves. For a long time, they focused on what went wrong. Who was responsible? What circumstances got in the way? What obstacles existed between the two of you? But lately, their attention seems to be turning inward. They're starting to ask different questions. Questions that require honesty. Questions that require growth. Questions that require them to stop blaming everything outside themselves. And that isn't always comfortable. Because self-awareness can feel beautiful and painful at the same time. I keep picking up on somebody who has spent months, maybe even years, carrying certain patterns without realizing how much those patterns were controlling their decisions. The moment they begin recognizing those patterns, everything starts looking different. Certain conversations suddenly make sense. Certain memories take on new meaning. Certain choices no longer feel justified. And that's where the energy begins changing. Because awareness creates responsibility. Once they see it, they can unsee it. The death card is standing right beside this energy. And no, I'm not picking up on endings here. I'm seeing somebody slowly letting go of an old version of themselves. The version that stayed emotionally unavailable. The version that ran when things became serious. The version that convinced themselves distance was easier than vulnerability. Honestly, I feel like this person is exhausted. Exhausted from carrying masks. Exhausted from pretending. Exhausted from constantly fighting emotions that refuse to disappear. There's something about Sagittarius that keeps showing up as a mirror. Not a mirror that reflects appearance. A mirror that reflects truth. And I think that's one of the reasons this connection affected them so deeply. You challenged them without even trying. You made them question things they normally wouldn't question. You encouraged growth in ways that may not have been obvious at the time. I keep hearing this energy say, I was different after meeting them, whether they've admitted that openly or not. It feels true. The Hanged Man creates a very interesting moment in this story, because this person seems to be viewing everything from a completely different angle than before. Situations they once felt certain about no longer feel certain. People they trusted may not look the same anymore. Advice they followed doesn't seem as valuable as it once did. It's almost as if the fog is clearing. Slowly. Not all at once. But enough for them to realize that some of the influences surrounding them weren't actually helping them move forward. And honestly, I feel like this realization is creating distance between them and certain people. Not because they're angry. Not because they're trying to start conflict. But because they're beginning to recognize which voices align with their heart and which voices pull them away from it. There are people around them who encouraged avoidance. People who normalized emotional detachment. People who made it seem acceptable to stay disconnected from deeper feelings. Yet those perspectives don't fit the way they used to. The more they listen to themselves, the less comfortable those old influences become. The Ten of Wands feels incredibly important here, because this person is carrying a lot. Responsibilities, pressure, expectations, mistakes, regrets, fear, all of it. And I feel like they're finally acknowledging how heavy that burden has become. For a while they tried carrying everything alone, tried proving they could handle it, tried convincing themselves they didn't need help. But there's something changing. I keep seeing somebody setting things down one piece at a time. Not because life suddenly became easy, but because they understand they can't keep moving forward while dragging every old wound behind them. And what stands out most is that they don't seem interested in repeating the same cycle anymore. The version of them that kept running appears tired. The version of them that avoided difficult conversations appears tired. The version of them that convinced themselves they could simply ignore their feelings appears very, very tired. What I'm seeing instead is somebody standing quietly at the edge of a crossroads, looking at everything they've learned, looking at everything they've lost, looking at everything they've finally begun to understand. And for the first time in a very long time, it feels like they're seriously considering a different path. A sense of determination is beginning to replace the hesitation that kept them stuck for so long. Not because every fear has disappeared. Not because every question has been answered. It feels more like they're reaching a place where the possibility of doing nothing has become harder to live with than the possibility of taking a chance. The Two of Cups feels incredibly emotional here. What stands out isn't fantasy. It isn't obsession. It isn't idealization. It's connection. Real connection. The kind that continues to exist even when two people are separated by distance, time, or silence. I keep picking up on moments where this person imagines what it would feel like to simply sit beside you again. To talk without walls. To laugh without pretending. To be honest without constantly calculating every word. Because for all the confusion they've experienced, one thing seems to be becoming clearer. They miss the feeling of being themselves around you. And honestly, that realization carries a lot of weight. There are plenty of people we meet throughout life. There are plenty of conversations. Plenty of attractions. Plenty of temporary connections. but every so often someone enters our world and leaves a mark that doesn't fade. That's the energy I'm seeing here. This person isn't thinking about a passing moment anymore. They're thinking about something that feels meaningful, something that still matters, something they never fully replaced. The chariot begins moving through this energy, and I immediately feel momentum. Not rushed energy, not impulsive energy, purposeful energy. The kind that develops after someone spends a long time standing still. I feel like they're starting to imagine practical possibilities instead of endless what-ifs. They're wondering how a conversation might unfold. They're wondering what they would say. They're wondering whether enough trust remains to rebuild something real. Because what keeps standing out is that they don't seem interested in repeating the old version of this connection. The old patterns don't feel attractive anymore. The confusion doesn't feel attractive anymore. The games don't feel attractive anymore. There's something about maturity entering this situation. A desire to create clarity where there was once uncertainty. A desire to move toward understanding rather than avoidance. And honestly, I think that's surprising even them. Because I don't feel like this person expected to change as much as they have. The Queen of Pentacles appears and suddenly everything feels steadier, grounded, more realistic. I keep hearing thoughts about stability, not excitement for a single moment, not temporary passion, stability, consistency, reliability, things they may not have valued enough in the past. There's something beautiful about the way they see you here. I don't feel they're placing you on a pedestal. I feel they're recognizing qualities they once overlooked. Your patience, your strength, your ability to keep moving forward even when things aren't easy. The way you carry yourself, the way you continue growing. And honestly, some of that inspires them. Some of it humbles them. Because while they've been going through their own internal awakening, they've also been watching you become stronger. And that growth has left an impression. A very deep impression. The magician arrives and the energy becomes focused, intentional. This person appears to be asking themselves a very different question than before. Earlier, the question was, am I good enough? Can I do this? What if I fail? Those fears are still present. But another question is beginning to emerge. What can I do? What can I change? What can I create? And that's important because it shifts their attention away from helplessness. I keep seeing someone who no longer wants to remain trapped in endless reflection. They want movement. They want progress. They want the opportunity to show through actions what words alone could never fully explain. There's something about this energy that feels sincere. Not perfect. Not fearless. Not guaranteed. Just sincere. Because I don't think this person believes they can erase the past. I don't think they're expecting everything to magically return to the way it once was. What I do feel is a genuine desire to stop missing opportunities that matter, to stop allowing fear to make decisions for them, to stop watching life happen from a distance. And the more they sit with those feelings, the more they begin imagining what the first step toward you might actually look like. And maybe that's where we'll leave this energy for today. Some connections don't disappear simply because time passes. Some feelings don't fade simply because they're ignored. What I've been seeing throughout this reading feels like someone who has been trying to understand their heart, their choices, and the impact this connection has truly had on their life. Whether this resonates with your situation or not, I hope this reading reminds you of something important. Your value was never determined by someone else's ability to recognize it. And the right lessons, realizations, and conversations always arrive in their own time. Thank you so much for sharing this moment with me. I truly appreciate every single one of you. If this reading spoke to your heart, feel free to leave a comment below and let me know what resonated with you the most. Take what connects with your situation and gently leave the rest behind. You all mean so much to me, and I'm grateful that we get to spend this time together. I'll see you in the next reading. Until then, take care of yourself, keep trusting your intuition, and keep moving toward the things that bring peace to your heart. Okay.
Bye-bye.